Hello, everyone. Welcome to the FTX podcast. Glad to have here with me today Nodar Janashia, co-founder of Zapper.fi. Welcome, Nodar.
Thanks for having me, man.
It's an absolute pleasure. And to kick this off, I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself to the listeners and give a bit of background about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Nodar. Like you mentioned, I'm working on Zapper currently, and just been, kind of dabbing in DeFi for the last almost 2 years now, and yeah, just trying to experiment and bring new use cases to the space.
And to go back in time, then, I'd love to hear a bit of how you got into cryptocurrency initially.
Oh, how I got into crypto? Yeah, so I guess or how I really got into crypto was in like early 2017, mid 2017, I would say. Yeah, like I kept hearing about Bitcoin from before. One of my really good friends actually got burned during the whole Mongox era, but I never really paid attention to it until I saw this mining video, like really randomly on Vice, actually, on how to mine Ethereum, and a proof of work concept was explained there, and right away it kind of struck me as the next level to the double entry accounting system, which we've been using essentially since like the 15th century, and that hasn't changed, that underlying layer. So yeah, that immediately intrigued me, and actually I started mining at first as my first I guess step in the crypto. So I guess I'm pretty proud to say I didn't buy my first ETH. I earned it. So yeah, that would be like kind of how I originally started dabbing in the Ethereum world.
Oh, that's a good starting story rather than just, you can't say, oh, I bought at 1400 Ethereum, and then I've had a few of those people on the podcast as well. And I'm curious, what was your background? Were you in college at the time? What were you up to?
Oh yeah, actually at that time I had a startup which was an online marketplace connecting CPAs, like accountants, with like startups. And actually like the whole thing was like done, the whole engagement like online, and payments accepted through Stripe. So like as soon as I got into Ethereum, right away I thought about like how to like create that, obviously in the decentralized world where the incentives are much different, right?
That makes sense. So, and the background though was you were on the programming side, or what was your focus?
Oh, I was more on the finance side. So I went to school at Fordham. I've been interested in accounting ever since before. Actually, like in high school, I interned at Ernst and Young, which is like one of the big four accounting firms. And then, during school, I was working at BDO in the corporate tax. So yeah, I've been like always really interested in accounting and finance. After graduating, I became a financial advisor at AXA. I kind of passed the whole like Series 7, 63, and all that good stuff. And yeah, after that, I decided to get into a bit more in the tech world, I guess you would say. So I joined a startup called Plan Guru up in White Plains. Basically, it was connecting both finance and tech for me. So it was like a financial budgeting and forecasting software. And like every day I would just spend onboarding accounting firms, kind of seeing what they're currently doing with their clients in terms of like financial modeling and budgeting, and seeing how we can improve and obviously replicate what they're currently doing, and like optimize their like reporting and forecasting methodologies. And then yeah, after that that's where I saw the disconnect of how these accountants exactly are connecting with their clients, especially if it's like a startup client, right? It's like startups don't even think about accountants actually until like, as I say, like shit hits the fan, right? Like you don't really spend on accountants. So I really saw that it was like something that could perhaps help some of the startups really get to the next level. So yeah, I decided to kind of curate this initial network of these CPAs all around the US, and yeah, kind of launched that network. It was completely bootstrapped, and yeah, it was like I automated a lot of things there, and so from like operation standpoint, and yeah, it was definitely a great experience.
was the transition out of that because you got into the cryptocurrency space, or what was the point where did you continue that for a while, or what happened there?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I don't know. I guess everybody says this, but it really is true. Like when they say like fell down the rabbit hole, and yeah, like as soon as I kind of started mining Ethereum, it was a kind of like no turning back. I was like fully my attention was fully devoted to learning more. I actually spent some time like attending even a few events. At one point, I was like even going around like interviewing people. I even interviewed Vitalik once in Bangkok. It was pretty cool. He was pretty open about it. So yeah, it was like it just like it was trying to learn honestly and try to see how I can either like help out a current project in the space or obviously like start something on my own. And I guess that's where I kind of fell into, doing DeFi tutorials. And then after that, DeFi Zap and what's now basically a Zapper.
And what was DeFi like 2 years ago when you were doing these tutorials? What was the marketplace like?
Oh, yeah, it was much different. I mean, I could tell you, first of all, transactions used to cost pennies. But besides that, like, yeah, it was like the early stages of these fundamental building blocks that people are like really composing with and experimenting with right now today. Really they were starting to get built like I would say like around 2 years ago, right? So these things they do take time, and like all this tooling that's now built around Ethereum especially, it's really great kind of watching this progress and watching the community built around that from all different angles, right? So in a typical scenario you would see like a lot of people competing against each other, right? But here I really saw a lot of projects really work together on multiple different problems within the space that together now makes DeFi possible, right?
Mhm. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree there. It's one of the wonderful things about this space we work in is how collaborative projects are rather than competitive in a lot of ways. It I honestly the coolest thing about that is not just the results that you get when these people put their heads together, but it's just the fact that you get to meet so many people within the same space as you're in. For me, that's what I love about it.
Oh
For sure.
yeah, that's honestly like yeah, like it's incredible how like welcoming the community is and how like you said collaborative everyone is. Like last year, like I honestly did not expect at all to kind of be where we're at today, like in terms of like just the network that we built out and like just the people that I've met personally. I mean, it's just kind of a little bit insane because like literally last year I was like I don't know, like depressingly broke and like really thinking of like really thirsting of like yeah, how I can make a difference, right? So at the end of the day, like yeah, it was great building back then because it was like during the beer markets, I guess you see exactly who is in the space for the movement, not for the APY, right?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And before I go a little bit into your project and how that all evolved, just to double check, so these initial projects that you were probably writing guides on and whatnot so there was Kyber, I think Tomo might have existed,
Yeah, maker,
Maker, of course, yeah.
compound. Yeah, like as they were especially launching set protocol also. Yeah, is basically like I said, like of course Uniswap. Yeah, so like the building blocks, like I said before, of
Mhm.
what people are experimenting with further today and kind of making more complex derivatives, right?
And Zapper.fi started as you said DeFi Zap. Was that the first iteration of it?
Yeah, it was started as a hackathon project, like back in almost 1 year ago already. Like, yeah, like it was in November of last year, and essentially, like it's kind of like something I literally like. I went on I saw like Kyber's virtual hackathon going on, and I just went on their Discord, and I was like, hey, I'm like I have this like idea I'm working on, and I'm just like looking for some help, and like within 5 minutes, like somebody responded to me, and I just like started working with them, and like we started like it was like 2 weeks before the deadline, and we ended up winning the hackathon. So obviously that gave us a push to like build it further. So yeah, it was pretty great. Like, yeah, just the whole thing like coming together. Because even before that, like, right, like before DeFi Zap, I made this thing called like DeFi strategies, which basically it was kind of like a trading simulator, right? Which I made as a result of like people like kind of giving me feedback from tutorials. And now I already made tutorials. I think it was like on like 5 different protocols. And basically now I'm just like, yeah, like kind of like I first started out like just deploying them to all these different protocols at the same time, kind of like a diversified portfolio, you could say, right? Just like a simple kind of diversification instead of going into each protocol separately. And then like obviously like more interesting experimentation started to happen where bundling certain actions in certain orders would result in like a specific derivative, in some cases a specific kind of allocation with a hedge to that asset. So yeah, like when I remember like the really kind of the Zap that kind of really put us on the radar, because even after the hackathon, like I felt like again it was just like a simple allocations, but like we made this like Unipool Zap, which was like single asset liquidity provisioning to Uniswap, which would basically like take your one asset, split it up into these two according assets, underlying assets required for the pool, and mint you the pool tokens directly from Uniswap. And actually, a lot of people, I mean, everyone who used Zavs back in the day, right now they received, those free unis
Hmm.
that are claimable. So yeah, that was kind of like the Zap that put us on the radar, because with that Zap, we kind of abstracted away the complexities of entering Uniswap pools and really brought a lot more new people into the pooling experience, because I saw a lot of people who were in Ethereum longer than I was that were completely unfamiliar with like what pooling is, and like that even that section on Uniswap, they would just use Uniswap for swapping, but they weren't aware of pooling.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's like it was definitely a great push of new users into like the AMM space.
And for the listeners, what is Zapper.fi?
Yeah, so actually, I was gonna lead on to that. After like making these apps, right? Like I right away saw like the need for a nice front end, right? Like kind of we had the transactions kind of like stitches together, but now everyone was looking for, okay, once I zap in, sort of, right? Like where do I see my allocations? Where do I see my so so in January I saw Seb launch DeFi Snap, and right away I was like, oh my god, that's a front end for Zaps, right? Like DeFi Zap, DeFi Snap. So I started we started like keeping in contact, and we like really every day Seb would come home and like do a new integration of a new protocol, and like the UI he was making was really slick. I mean, it's basically what you see on the dashboard and the everything else today.
Hmm.
And we came in sort of with Zaps and brought on the kind of like the actions that you take on these protocols with the invest tab and the exchange that you see today.
And real
So
quick, what is a
yeah.
Zap?
So a Zap is a smart contract that bundles DeFi actions together into one on-chain transaction
Hmm.
to deliver you a well-defined, financial product instrument. Like I said before, it could be anything from a derivative to allocation, like a diversified allocation, to a position with a hedge. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. So you found this sleek front end. You guys were started working together. Sorry to interrupt you there. Just wanted to clarify in
No,
case
no.
someone wasn't sure what it was.
Hello.
Oh, hey. So you were telling me how you had found these people who had made a really sleek front end for what you guys were doing in the back end, and that's where we left off before.
Oh yeah, yeah. Sorry, I thought you were still talking. Yeah, yeah. So after kind of keeping in contact, we saw we had like a similar vision for DeFi, and back in May we decided to merge together the two projects. So DeFi Zap and DeFi Snap became Zapper, and yeah, like we've been kind of cranking at it ever since. And most recently, right now, we're working on, kind of like the next iteration for Zapper, I guess you would say, a community exit where we really want to open up the floor for the Zap creations to everybody, right? So we ourselves are not going to be able to obviously come up with all the Zaps, right? Like kind of all the combinations, especially with the recent kind of farming craze, right? Like it's something that we realized the community will always have more power and more kind of, you know, more more innovations, right? Like it's kind of like this the Shopify effect, right? It's kind of like
Hmm.
the people using the platform would always come up with more use cases and more kind of derive more value than any internal team as us, right? So yeah, if you really think about it, kind of the very original kind of farming opportunity was going into the Seth and ETH Uniswap pool, where you receive the SNX incentives on top. So like Synthetics used to like literally just take snapshots of your wallets, who like the liquidity providers to that pool, and just like manually send them out SNX like once a while, once a week. And it was like literally like a running spreadsheet on their Discord. So yeah, it was like uh, we started out really flexible, but things got refined along the way, and yeah, like I said before, it's been incredible kind of watching this progress live.
And the thing that allows you to bundle all these together is basically composability. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the fact that all of these systems, right? All of these DeFi protocols, financial kind of underlying layers, they're all open. You can tap into them, and you can have a overview of them, a live overview of what's happening in each one of them at any time, right? So, yeah, the openness of this and the sort of the universal data layer is what allows for these brand new use cases that that were not possible in like traditional finance, right? Which is kind of like a black box
Hmm.
most of the time.
Yeah, everything is siloed, and now all of a sudden everything is interconnected, which is pretty amazing. Something I wanted to ask you, because I use Zapper, obviously not super intricately, but as my as my portfolio manager and sometimes for some of the simple zaps. But I'd love to hear some of the zaps that you like the most or you were the most excited to come out with.
Yeah, I mean the one that was I was most excited to come out with was a leveraged liquidity pooling zap. I remember that one was really like I said, like the first one that put us on kind of like a roadmap was the Unipools app, which was just like single asset liquidity provisioning. But then there was this, it was leverage liquidity pooling. So it was pooling and opening up a margin position, a leverage position on one of the assets that you want to remain 100% exposure to. So like one of the things why people didn't want to go into a pool is because like, oh, if I go into a pool and one of these assets shoots up in price, there's impairment loss. So what we created was essentially a third of your, so going through an example, say for example a 3 ETH deposit, and you're going into the DAI ETH pool, right, on Uniswap. So if you were doing it normally, you would just split half of your ETH, so 1.5 ETH into DAI, and then take the 1.5 ETH and the 1.5 ETH in DAI that you sold, and then add those two assets into the pool, right? But now obviously you lost the exposure to 3 ETH. Now you only have exposure to 1.5 ETH, right?
Hmm.
So what we did was when you're taking the 3 ETH initial deposit, 1 ETH is sent to a leveraged, tokenized leverage position. So a 2x position on that will give you a 2 ETH exposure. And then the other 2 ETH is uh, pooled into, zapped into a pool. So one of the ETH gets converted to DAI, and 1 ETH stays as 1 ETH. And then that 1 ETH and 1 ETH and DAI gets added to the pool. At the end, you have 1 ETH in the pool and 2 ETH exposure from a leveraged position, keeping your overall exposure to 3 ETH. And of course, meanwhile, you're still in the DAI.
Yeah.
hopefully I wasn't too
No,
confusing
that
or
made
kind of
perfect sense.
scattered through that. Yeah.
No, thanks for the
uh,
breakdown.
yeah, and I remember after that, even Hayden from Uniswap reached out to us, and like I got to visit the Uniswap office, which is like literally 15 minutes away from my house here in Brooklyn, which is pretty cool. And yeah, it was really really good. Like it was really good kind of getting everybody's kind of juices flowing with the experimentation space. That's literally when actually I met with Andre from Wifey.
Hmm.
uh, that's when he was like started building iron. And yeah, it was like the first person. I was always waiting for someone to kind of pick up zaps and start experimenting with them, because I've used zaps as kind of like the plumbing, and then like somebody like iron uses them to essentially as like the logic behind the rebalancing, and then the zaps are used for quick rebalances and sometimes quick repositioning and reallocations. So yeah, it was incredible watching Andre obviously go to work with the crazy experimentation he started doing. Yeah, so it's really like the composability has been incredible.
Yeah, and it sounds like the timing was very right for you guys too. And I'd love to hear a little bit about what this whole DeFi boom has meant for you guys and what have you been up to during it.
Oh yeah, like the especially like the last 2 months. So yeah, it's been like we became kind of like the go-to place for farming, because now in addition to Uniswap, we have all the other pools essentially that are used for farming. So like most of farming is like you to go you put your assets in the pool first, and then take that pool and stake that pool token somewhere else. So that's kind of like the premise of most of these quote unquote farms. And yeah, like especially we've seen a huge uptake from like Asia, and in general, just like everywhere has been kind of like everyone looking to get involved. And what I'm seeing really is, even though yes, there've been like a lot of these blatant scams, right? They're just like kind of rug pull and stuff. I think most recent one was like literally yesterday.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's even though all these things are happening, like just kind of like with every new innovation, uh, I'm seeing a lot of people like really once they get into DeFi, they stick here. So like I'm seeing a lot of people come for APY but stay for DeFi, right? It's kind of they're seeing what you can do. They're seeing the possibilities of what the real open finance brings about, and right away you could see the difference between fintech and DeFi, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And was your guys' infrastructure very sound, or did you have any critical moments when your usage started spiking? Because I can only imagine that you guys went from a few users to very many very quickly.
Oh yeah, yeah. So like we had actually spent quite a bit time optimizing recently. Like for example, one of the providers we use, Alchemy. Uh, we basically a lot of like popular projects in our space are on using them as well, but like recent uptick caused the usage to be multiple times higher than like any of their like popular projects that are using them right now. So we had to quickly figure out how we can make it sustainable in terms of obviously the costs, because they were paying like insane AWS fees essentially for us.
Hmm.
And yeah, so it was obviously a good problem to have, and we, like I said, like spent a good amount of time optimizing to try to make it sustainable for both parties. So that was like one of the big things recently, because it's the kind of like everyone wants to obviously have a overview of everything and live and all the time, right? So all these things, like if you can imagine a single project like Uniswap, right? They're using something on their front end that's all around like Uniswap, but and balancer all around balancer. But now but with Zapperify, you're seeing all the pools from all the places, and plus on your dashboard you're seeing all the balances from like over 20 different protocols. All these things are calls to see what your balances are. So all these things add up to millions of calls, obviously, and yeah, it's uh, that all costs money.
No, I can only imagine. And I know you guys did a raise recently, and I'd love to hear kind of what the plan is moving forward. You said a little bit about this community handoff, and I bet you guys have a lot of stuff in the works. So I'd love to explore that a bit.
Yeah, like I said before, I really want to open up the floor for the builders, especially of the new apps, and essentially, use some incentives to help them. Essentially, you could say like kind of like make a living from this, right? Like sort of build a sustainable, perhaps, as you would say, like before, like online businesses with Shopify. You can imagine kind of building these sustainable new economies within DeFi, right? So yeah, that's kind of like what we're excited about the most. We're seeing this kind of layer of more sophisticated, kind of like you could say, like quote unquote farmers, who could be onboarding their own like niche communities into the space, right? Like in their own niche ways. So yeah, it's that's something we're like focused on right now pretty heavily. At the same time, though, you know, we had to keep up with all the recent kind of like every new farm that kind of comes around, like you have to like integrate it from the contract side, make sure we're reading the balances right and stuff like that. So if a person doesn't see their kind of their money on their on their dashboard, they're gonna like, I guess, like leave, right? Or just like not come back, or like not use uh, this dashboard. So one of the things we kind of like really kept at the forefront is making sure that the product is sticky. So something that people come back to every day and really find useful. Like I myself, I'm a full-time user, and the moment that I don't become a user, that's when you see a problem, right? So we really try to be on the ground floor. Like you'll see me on Discord at any time, kind of answering questions, no matter how stupid they are or kind of how easy they are, as people tend to think. But there's no stupid questions, and like there's no like right answers either, right? Like right
Mhm.
now, it's like a lot of experimentation, and I'm seeing a lot of people also just kind of like obviously FOMO in, and then after start asking questions, right? Like, no, you should like you should like probably ask questions before at least, yeah, yeah.
That's pretty great. I really like that model of incentivizing innovation within the ecosystem. It's just gonna make your product such a better product, in my opinion. Because how big is your team right now?
Us, 9 of us.
Hmm. And has that just grown rapidly recently, or has it been you nine for a bit?
Yeah, it's been like just like three of us for a while. Yeah, and yeah, it's recently we like well recently like DeFi Dad was one of the people we onboarded, which is pretty cool. Um, yeah, and a couple of backend engineers, and of course people on smart contracts. So yeah, it's like definitely like we try to obviously kind of like the cockroach approach, right? Trying to really because like really like even 3 months ago like things were pretty different, I would say. Like even though like we've been like you know kind of having the same mission from last year, only right now a lot of people started turning around.
Hmm. I can only
Yeah.
imagine. And so for as a company that's on the cutting edge of a field, how do you find people? I mean, it must be a little more challenging than the traditional fields. Like if you're an accounting firm, there's so many CPAs out there, but has it been from within your own community mostly?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. It's like you gotta kind of tap into a pool of kind of like global talent, right? And a lot of times, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, like I've had situations where people would just like reach out to me with already kind of built out kind of ideas or like features. I mean, it's kind of actually like instead of an interview, we just kind of like, hey, like let's work together for 2 weeks and see what happens. And like everyone is welcome to kind of join in this way, right? Like it's like yeah, it's been kind of pretty incredible watching just like complete strangers, like really, especially right now with COVID, right? Everyone is at home. uh, they're like really incentivized. It's pretty like if you throw incentives at them, like everyone is like super involved. Yeah,
I love
it's
it.
very
I
it's
really, I
yeah.
really, really, really love that. I mean, that's something Andre was sharing as well, is how his team has grown, and it sounds exactly the same way your team has grown. So it's really cool to see you guys building things that not only are, innovating and making life easier for people to navigate these systems, but at the same time giving people opportunities to participate actively. Because, I was retail in crypto up until 6, 7 months ago. It was my passion. I loved it. I had no idea how to get into this industry, and I got very lucky. But the fact that there are now more and more avenues I think, is a great thing for the space overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, listen, like I said before, like literally last year, I was I guess in the shoes of builders who are kind of like just starting out. Like literally, I had like nobody, like I didn't know anybody in the space. Didn't have a strong coding background at all. Like just like did a couple of like smart contract tutorials, but that's it. Like I had no coding background. It was mostly like financial background. And I'm seeing a lot of people right now are coming in and getting interested in DeFi, obviously are from like financial fields, but not necessarily from like coding backgrounds, and they're getting intimidated by Solidity, right? So it's important for us to obviously lower the barrier for these, yeah, with like some no code tools, perhaps, of
Hmm.
course, and in general, like things like Gitcoin through grants, like this, like you don't know what kind of situation each builder is in, like what stage in life they're in. Some people could be like really like kind of like, you don't know how low somebody is. So
Hmm.
it's important to kind of always staying open and making sure that anyone from any level is able to see a pathway for them to getting involved and actually making a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because especially there's so much funny money in this space that it's a great thing that to be able to allocate some of that to places where it really, really makes a difference, which is kind of what, I think you're doing through this, and what Andre's doing, and what many other companies are doing. So I think that's very bullish overall for the space. And I kind of wanted to get your insight because, as you said, you're the plumbing of all these protocols. So you have a pretty good insight, probably better than most anyone into everything going on. Are there any of these things you're very excited about or collaborating more closely with than others, or are you pretty agnostic?
Yeah, we tend to be pretty agnostic, but like obviously there are some things that I guess like definitely excite me. Like I could say, um, I mean, obviously we've been working close with Andre for a while, and like I chat with him pretty often, and like yeah, it's incredible kind of watching obviously the wifey community built out. So collaborating on like strategies and whatnot, it's been one of the best things. But yeah, like I guess like something with like options right now, I'm getting pretty interested in, because like combining like options with liquidity provisioning is
Yes.
similar. Yeah, yeah. It's been like you know what the thing is, it's like even with like leverage liquidity pooling, we had to pause that because there's just no good source for like tokenized leverage positions, right? Like yeah, you could get a leverage position on BitMEX, or like you could get it on BZX. That's what we used to use. Obviously, you know what happened to BZX, so we like paused it like when they had their like very first initial incident. Um, but yeah, it's like there's no good source right now. I'm seeing like there's a couple of projects I know that are launching around like leveraging your positions. So that's gonna be like interesting one to watch. And then yeah, like I said, like options. So combining like pooling with options kind of eliminates, if you buy straddle, essentially it eliminates hopefully impairment loss on both sides,
Hmm.
depending on obviously how much you pay in premium fees on obviously it's like how long. So one of the projects actually is a hedge, which basically does one of these things where when you're interacting with a contract to buy an option, your strike price is equal to the current price. So you could buy essentially it's like for buying straddles, right?
Hmm.
Uh, but like a system like Open, right? They have these predetermined, strikes and uh, expirations that they're launching, right?
Yeah,
So
I'm really excited for on-chain options. It's just as you said, there's some very fundamental pieces missing to the puzzle, but the teams working on it are interesting. And hey, we'll try and create something to get liquidity from on Serum and then port it over to Ethereum. So hopefully we'll create a solution there. At least a viable option is the plan.
yeah, yeah, that's like the thing to like instead of working on, I guess, like I see a lot of like, oh, like stable coins, and like everyone's working on stable coins, but like there's other things to work on for sure. And yeah, like for sure leverage position is one of them. uh as I'm gonna say in terms of options, anyways, yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, no, I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. And if the pieces do come together for on-chain options, it's just going to be really interesting because at the moment, even you can there are venues for trading crypto options, but if you could do it without having to sign up for something and have a really easy UI, I think that's pretty bullish overall, especially as more and more people are interacting with these Web3 wallets. It'll be it'll be quite
Yeah, it's
interesting.
actually like it's actually like even before DeFi Zappas, the white paper I was kind of drafting out was for an options protocol. And but yeah, I saw it was definitely way too early for that, especially like around that time. It was like, yeah, like it's needed, the some pieces needed to be built out. And yeah, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like as these pieces get built out, more complex things are possible. And all these things with all like kind of vulnerabilities I'm seeing right now, most of the vulnerabilities are obviously on like the economic level. So if anything, I'm seeing with every vulnerability, quote unquote, things are getting more and more optimized. So like you rather optimize things when they're at a couple of $1 million as opposed to a couple of billion or $1 trillion, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, I
absolutely. I
think
mean,
I think
we're
it's
definitely.
making our space more resilient every
Yeah,
time.
I agree 100%. That's why I don't think every time we have one of these security breaches or whatnot, it's net negative. I think overall, if we're pushing the envelope here with what's being built, we have to expect there to be meltdowns. I mean, I think in every system that has in some way changed the world, they had huge meltdowns in the process of instituting them. So it's only to be expected.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then, I have a last question for you here, Nodar, and it's you're a builder. You're a builder that didn't necessarily come from the technical background, which I think blocks many builders on taking the leap and going for it and starting their own thing. I would like to ask you, what are some words you could leave with people that may be listening to this podcast that want to build but have had a lack of something to go and do it?
Yeah, as if okay, so if you're lacking like specifically a coding background, right? Which, like we said before, I think a lot of people do, especially like a lot of people with finance backgrounds. I think then in that case, you should definitely, of course, get help from somebody on the tech side, but then you yourself kind of like get help. Like there's so much kind of money and I guess like incentives going around for builders, right? That like why would a builder come work with you if you have kind of like, well, because you have a cool idea, right? Like it's kind of like you're fighting for builders' attention if you don't have a technical background and you're looking for someone. So you either have to obviously leverage your, this great traction that you're receiving, which obviously if you're starting from zero, you don't, or you have to try to start with literally like community building and like try to come out with like prototypes of whatever idea that you're working on, like focus on design. Like what I did a lot was like I said before, like I started with like DeFi tutorials. That was like a really low hanging fruit at that time. Like nobody was really doing that. I literally bought a domain, defitutorials.com. I just like started pumping out tutorials there. And every time I'll pump out a tutorial about a new project, that project would feature me within their community. And then like I would just like talk with people on Discord and exchange ideas. And yeah, like a lot of people were asking me like, "There's no way you're doing this for free. Like, who's paying you? Why are you shilling these projects?" Right? Like, it's like a lot of people didn't believe that I was doing this for free. But what really, it wasn't really for free, right? The kind of the connections and the network that I made through that time opened up so many doors, and kind of it is, yeah, the ROI on that is incredible. It's better than getting in on any of these new farms. I can tell you that. So yeah, it's just important to focus on other areas which are, very important within our space. Like I said, like just the UI factor, right? Like just improving the UI a little bit on the pooling side. Like I feel like opened up a door to a whole new set of people coming into the space. Just make small kind of UI improvements. So I definitely like focus on that, and always focus on, like, at the end of the day, kind of bringing uh, like value to the end users with your project idea, right? So a lot of people I'm seeing in the space of building these rocket ships that are like 5 years out, right? But things are changing on a weekly basis in DeFi. So you're always better off getting to the MVP as quick as possible. That was like that's why I kind of created DeFi strategies, right? That trading simulator before DeFi Zap. A lot of people there thought that they would be placing on-chain transactions. They were like, "Oh, I thought I'd be like placing a trade." And I was like, "Okay, so people are gonna do this, right? Like people do want to transact this way. So okay, let's now, build the contracts." I remember at that time people were like scared to freaking deploy a smart contract, right? It was like a sin if you deployed a contract without an audit, right? But obviously now things are different, and yeah, I think getting an audit now might be even silly in some cases, because if you're going to change your contracts a week after an audit, what's the point of that? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that breakdown. And thanks for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate speaking with you.
Oh, no problem, man. Hopefully I didn't like blab on too much.
No, that was great. Thanks.